The Iranian government is getting a lot of support from Russia,
Are
China,
they?
and so on. That's what I've heard. Russia is
Let me
employing technology weapons to them. China is giving them. I haven't understand if it's weapons or foot
let
soldiers or
me let,
what it is.
let's actually get a. I think I actually haven't heard what they have been sending. So let's see what Jeffrey knows about this. Jeffrey, have the Chinese and the Russians been helping the Islamic Republic right now, other than the jammers and just like strongly worded letters? Are they actually supporting the Islamic Republic from a military, like militarily?
So, I mean, I can't say with any 100 degree, any like 100, well, no analyst would ever say something like this is 100% true. I can speak with relative levels of confidence and probability. We do know that there was, I think, just a couple of days ago, 16 Chinese Communist Party military cargo aircraft that landed. And that, you game out, okay, what are the things that the Mullah regime might want to have, and how big are they, and how much can you put on that plane? And, so you can give guesstimates of what they might have done. If I can give you definitive stuff, if I knew that, I wouldn't say it. And I'm just saying that, is there a possibility? Yes. Can I give you a definitive probability or confidence? No.
So my guess would be if they are helping, they're just selling some equipment that the Islamic Republic might be needing right now, but they're not going to become actively involved. If the maximum that they would be doing is just like,
No, I
oh,
don't think that
you want to
like
buy
Putin.
these? Yeah,
I don't
go.
think Putin's criminalized counterintelligence state of the Chinese Communist Party are going to put military personnel on the ground. But I find that to
Yeah.
be a very low order probability. I wouldn't put it past them giving them things like TELs or low end anti-aircraft stuff, not because it would be effective. The idea would be
Mhm.
probably to try and bleed us out of our long range strike munitions because we'd have to allocate a JRASM or something to it. At least that's what they're thinking. I would contend their thinking is very much incorrect. And I'll just leave it
Yeah,
at that.
you like my. It's like you're dying anyways. Let's make money out of you as much as possible before you're gone.
Well, or like the Chicoms are like, wow, they know the United States' strategy to deter them invading Taiwan requires a certain amount of missiles because there was like a war game that came out and said, okay, it's going to take 5,000 long range strike munitions, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, well, let's just
Mhm.
make the cost of hitting the Mullah regime as expensive as it can be with the least amount of stuff. We'll
Mhm.
give them shitty Dashuka or like, anti-aircraft machine guns, and hopefully the United States would allocate a $1 million missile. Not going to
Yeah.
happen. Like, I promise you, Pete's not going to let that happen. So,
Okay. All right.
Armin,
So
can I just say
Okay, the
something in
last on
addition?
oh, yeah.
Oh,
so
Yeah, yeah.
sorry.
so
I just want to say something in addition to what Jeffrey said because I actually have been looking at flight radar for like quite some time. I've been tracking a lot of airplanes. I actually emailed you, Armin, about this with screenshots. There's planes coming in, they're Fly Dubai airplanes that are coming in from Russia, technically supposed to be landing in Dubai, but they are landing in Tehran, Mashhad, and Kerman, and I have screenshots of them landing and leaving. So technically, they just turn off their signals for a short time. There was actually a news post that I saw probably a week ago saying that China had sent airplanes, which we don't know what was inside because they were just sent by China. So there could have been military equipment somehow. They're not obviously going to come out and explicitly say we are supporting them, but I've seen this and I have official screenshots of airplanes that I've seen that they are Fly Dubai airplanes. Fly Dubai should not even be involved in something like this. Why are five different aircraft flying in from Russia every night? And it's not just one night, it's throughout the week.
okay, Jeffrey wanted to talk about that, or
yeah,
you
she's
need help?
touching base on the point that I mentioned, which is it's true that there are open intelligence reports that signal, and she did her own open intelligence assessment, which I mean, Camilla, if I'm pronouncing that right, very good on you. Like, that's very useful. So it's true that a couple of days ago, 16 military cargo aircraft from China landed in Iran. So it's true. I don't know what's on the plane. you could say, okay, what would the regimes want? This is kind of the stuff they'd want given our approach to strike them might be, blah, blah, blah. And this is what you can fit on the plane. And the idea of Putin or Xi almost assuredly in part is, well, they're not going to save the Mullah regime. They just want to make it as expensive as possible regarding our long range munitions to take them out. My point is there's a reason, and I'm so glad Pete is SecDef. Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, did what he did to rebuild our national defense industrial base. I'm going to tie this in on something because somebody asked this question. Why is it taking so long? So, why didn't we do this like years ago? So you have the damage that was caused to our force projection by different administrations, right? All the way back to Clinton, who reduced our force projection from a 2+ MTW, which is 2 major theaters of war, 2 desert storms, plus a little extra, to a 1-1-1 policy, 1 desert storm, 1 Bosnia, 1 Somalia. Under W, he was in the process of reconstituting that. Then we had the terror attacks of September 11th, and we got, had to deal with the global war on terror. And that came at the cost of resources and doctrine by investing in, capabilities that were designed to deal with extra state security concerns. In other words, the United States a state actor versus sub-state transnational actors that were very much rogue regime supported, not the least of which is the Mullah regime, which is one of the reasons why Donald killed Soleimani. You had Obama come in, though I will give Obama a nod when he used drones against our adversaries. While I hated Obama, that was one policy I very much appreciated. Donald, after that, started to rebuild our military due to diminished stocks and things that went bad, weapon systems that wore out due to surges and increased depreciation rate and all this other stuff. Biden comes in with all the mess that was there. And even the policies that were good, like the CHIPS Act, were very much undermined by Obama retreads and radical leftists co-opting and undermining the efficacy of those policies with all this wokeist horseshit. So right now, Pete has spent the past year undoing that, and why we've had a World War II level style reinvestment in our national defense industrial base with a very particular focus on building out our production capability regarding critical munitions like long range strike and or finding comparable munitions. This is like Lucky, Lucky, he's a cool guy, Lucky. He came up with his Barracuda version of JRASM. So that's the part right there. Add to that the geopolitical and geostrategic environment is a complex adaptive system, meaning it's fluid and ever changing, and all actors, good and bad, engage in competitive adaptation. This is kind of borne out by the fact that the current operational environment is defined by different members of the autocratic bloc coordinating their efforts. Oh, you're getting ready to hit Iran. We're going to sit there and, the Chi-Coms are going to put more pressure on Taiwan. Putin's doing stuff in Europe. They think that they can leverage that as a means to deter us by saying, well, if you got to make a choice. Again, that's true. They have to make choices. That said, there's a reason that Pete Hegseth has done what he's done. There's a reason that we're moving Ohio-class Tomahawk submarines in the region. Ohio-class Tomahawk submarines, if they launch their munitions, you're talking about, unclassed stuff. It's like each one carries 157 Tomahawk missiles. They're all launched in less than 6 minutes. If you have 4 of them, that's 500 plus Mullah targets are going to have a really bad fucking day. Add to that things like long-range strike bombers and all their other assets we put in the region. There is a lot of power there. Like when Tulsi makes the point, there is more force now in the Middle East pointed at the Mullah regime than any time in recent history, maybe even including the run up to the first Gulf War. Yeah, that's not a joke. Like if that kicks off, the US and Israelis, and they go in, I promise you the Mullah regime is going to have a really bad day. And it's not going to be, this isn't going to yeah. So there's a reason that it took us a minute because we're putting all our pieces in place. That has nothing to do with lack of will. That's more like Donald wants to make sure it goes off without a hitch if or when he pulls that trigger. Because once that trigger is pulled, you're not going to believe what you see, at least from what I'm looking at.
All right, let's move to.
And finally, the last on the list is Richard.
I saw Crystal raise her hand as well. Okay. So
Armin, I wanted to get your thoughts on this. I'm just curious. So, kind of seen a modern phenomenon of poorly informed Westerners sort of, taking sides in political conflicts, and Hamas's framing of the attempted Jewish genocide and inviting that response as some kind of political revolution got massive support, amongst Gen Zers and other, poorly informed Western youth. You had mentioned that this was probably satisfying some kind of an itch. They wanted to sort of have be a part of revolution, but without having any of the actual costs associated with it for that revolutionary fetish.
Mhm.
We're not seeing the same phenomenon in supporting the Iranian people. If it just comes down to Jew hate, or if there's something else going on as to why that wouldn't satisfy the same fetish if that was what caused it the first time.
right, because the narrative that has been used as a framework to basically scratch this itch for a very long time, for the past couple of decades. And by the way, Iranians are very familiar with this because this is the same itch that the commies were trying to itch inside Iran, when they basically united with the Islamists and brought down the Pahlavi dynasty. Is the evil that they're fighting against is this global order that we're in, right? So if you want to be a revolutionary, you have to feel like you're going against an evil and all powerful, like the biggest evil in the world. From a commie mindset, the world order that we're in is good enough, right? So the Iranian revolution doesn't fit that narrative. If you are a supporter of United States and allies of United States like Israel, then you don't fit that narrative. So the revolution that you want to be in is a revolution for a completely new world order. And the world order that we're in is being backed and supported by the United States and, in their mind, Zionism and, basically US allies around the world. So the Iranian people do not, that revolution must be a fake revolution, not even a real revolution. That revolution is probably in their minds is like a Mossad or CIA operation to take attention away from the real revolution, which is the axis of resistance, which is the Palestinian cause, which is anti-American, anti-Zionist. So you can't if you're backing one of these, you can't be backing the other one because one of them is again. I mean, the Iranian people hate the Palestinian. Sometimes I'm convinced that the Iranian people hate the Palestinian cause more than Israelis. Like sometimes it feels like that, right? So how could you, if you have already been participating in this revolution that is partly aligned, like it's aligned with the Palestinian cause, how could you also now support a group of people who are doing a revolution who are against the Palestinian cause, right? So the only way for you to make sense of this while not making yourself feel like you're on the wrong side of history is one of these is a real revolution and the other one is a CIA or a Mossad operation that is not organic and is not real. Does that make sense, sure?
It does. It's slightly depressing, but I still appreciate it.
Thank you. So
Before we move on, Armin, Nail Bunny asked that you check your Telegram, please.
okay, I will. Right
And
after Crystal and Oscar, right? If I'm not
yes.
mistaken.
Okay. And we're cutting the
Oh,
list there. Thank you, everybody. Don't stick your hand out or we cut it off.
Thank you for letting me be here. Can you hear me fine?
yes.
Wonderful. I actually wanted to make a comment about something that was said very earlier on in the session where a question was raised as to why these conversations matter. And if you don't want to discuss that, then I can pass.
No, that's a really good point. Go ahead.
I want to say that I think it's really imperative that we have these smaller conversations. Many of us can't go out and protest, or we're not able to really make an impact at a large scale, but we can learn and educate ourselves. A lot of the points that get made, there's so much confusion and this misinformation about whose side we're on and whether or not we need to pick a side. And like you had just mentioned, Armin, when you said about being against the Palestinian Israeli issue, I don't think that many Americans, at least the way that I see it, really realize how this Palestinian cause has been used to exploit this American ideal of freedom and liberty. And, I don't think most people really understand what Hamas has done and how they've made them, their living shield. And right now we're seeing that happen in Iran.
I think that's such an important point, and let me actually explain the scale of this. The whole point of Palestinian cause is to use the so-called Palestinians, or the people in Gaza and Judea Samaria, to unite people against the Western world order. Like, that is the entire point. This has nothing to do with the people in Gaza. This has nothing to do with the people in Judea and Samaria. This is all about the people who want to destroy the world order as it is, to find a cause to pretend that they're the victims, and to basically morally justify burning everything to the ground, because they want the people in Judea and Samaria and Gaza to suffer, to basically condemn the entire world, to basically justify burning the entire world. This is something the Iranian people have recognized. This is why the Iranian people also have recognized that they have been invaded by the Palestinian cause, right? Like, I don't think it's an exaggeration to say that Iran has been occupied by Palestine, right? Like, the people who are ruling over Iran are right now, there's nothing Iranian about them. Everything about them is Palestinian. Their DNA is Palestinian, their entire genesis story is Palestinian, and their cause is Palestinian. And the Iran is more occupied by Palestine, the Palestinian cause, than Gaza and Judea Samaria. And we all understand that from the very beginning of this cause, this was an expansionist. Like, they want to basically control the Palestinian cause, wants to invade everywhere except Gaza and Judea and Samaria. They want to be able to have full control in Iran, in Iraq, in Syria, everywhere else. But they want Israel to be able to continue to defend itself, so that they could put innocent people in the way, and Israel as a continuation of basically U.S. power, because Israel is considered to be like a continuation of U.S. power in the Middle East, to justify eventually waging war against the United States. So, like, I'm pretty sure that a lot of these people don't, like, some of these people who understand what's going on, they don't want really Israel to actually fall quite yet. Like, eventually, yes, but not quite yet, because they want to force Israel to put Israel in a position that, in an act of defending itself, children die in Gaza, so that this fuels their cause indefinitely, until they could basically conquer the entire world, or basically burn the entire world. This is what fuels their movement. The Iranian people understand this. This is why the Iranian people inside Iran chant, "Shove the Palestinian flag up your ass." Like, this is one of the most famous chants in Iran, because they understand what the Palestinian flag stands for.
100% agree with
Yeah.
Armin. Like, I've seen so many people say that, oh, see, it's like the whole, like, shining a light on Palestine is a good thing because it, like, helps prove how evil capitalism somehow is.
Oh yeah,
Right.
they've completely exploited any aspect that they could to really, unfortunately, radicalized well-meaning people who, just lacked the intellectual capacity to fully understand who they started to support. And now I look around myself in America and I'm like, wow, they really don't know what they're supporting. They have no notion of who the actors are behind the scene. They just are really fueled by their emotions. Once you start to explain this to people, when we have these conversations, and even just in small talk, they're like, wait a minute, I don't really align with that cause. And I'm like, no, you don't. You really don't,
Yeah.
and that's okay. And they'll admit it, but it takes these conversations to really get that
Really, I
together.
try to tell people shit. Like, I just get accused of being Islamophobic. Like, I cannot tell people what the reality on the ground in Gaza is like in terms of what their ideology is without getting called Islamophobic. If I so much as try to tell someone, hey, the average Gazan is more homophobic than the average Israeli, it's just getting yelled at Islamophobic for even suggesting that that's
Yeah.
possible.
And a lot of people who are basically saying free Palestine, they don't understand that they're also participating in a movement that is about anti-capitalism. Like, they don't even know, like, how that there's even any connection between the whole Palestinian cause and completely dismantling the capitalism. If you tell people that, what does one got to do with the other one? But in the minds of these people, the evils of what's happening in Gaza is just the natural results of having a capitalist global order. That's what they think. Yeah. All right. So I think Oscar was next. By the way, Crystal, those are really good points. Thank you for bringing them up. Okay.
Yes, finally it's Oscar.
Yeah, and I want to. Good thing that you brought it up because I wanted to talk about that as well. We all have different lives, so we all can all support in different ways, right? It's not really about like the big knockout punch. It's more about like having many like little things that accumulate to like a big push. You know, and who knows? Maybe next time that you go to like a coffee place, you encounter maybe that person for whatever reason is somebody that have my some stake in making decisions or in like whatever. And you talk to the guy and you tell them for whatever reason, right? It's all like a possible. You're just increasing the likelihood. Like we know this in like martial arts. Like you're not gonna get like a quick knockout punch quickly, right? You have to like accumulate damage and momentum, and then you can get that knockout punch, right? So it's the same idea pretty much, right? So these. Go ahead.
No, I just wanted to agree with you because, for example, when Sohail sent us that video, he didn't know that it's going to be watched by Ted Cruz, and all of a sudden it was watched by
Yeah.
Ted Cruz, and he talked about it on Fox News. And also, like, I was on a much smaller channel just recently that I thought like this is a very small channel and has very low impact because of the audience is very small. But then I realized like actually this very small channel is being watched by important people. The audience size might be small, but the people who are watching it are actually very quite influential, right? So don't judge like some who don't judge a channel or any other person. For example, you might be talking to the husband or wife of somebody who's very influential, and even somebody who's not very influential might actually change their opinions, and they're going to change someone else's opinion, and then all of a sudden in this chain reaction, one person among all of those people is going to be somebody that is very influential. The only thing we could do is just basically keep informing people and having a positive impact rather than focusing on how much of an impact this is going to have eventually. Focus on, am I doing my part? Like, am I doing whatever I could do? And if all of us think like that, eventually it's going to have a big response. I mean, that's what they are doing. They're not questioning themselves, and that's why they sometimes are very influential. So we also have to be not questioning ourselves and our influence. Just do what you can. But go, sorry for interrupting you, Oscar.
Yeah, and to kind of like further what you're saying, like a lot of the facts that people talk to us about like conflicts like Israel or Venezuela and stuff like that, these are like the status quo in a sense, right? Like these are opinions that people hold not because they like particularly research things or not because they particularly had some investment in the topic, but just because they understand that for whatever reason, like Jews run the banks, right? Like just kind of how they do. And any opportunity that you talk to someone might just have that fact. They might just assume that could be an opportunity to be like, where do you get that from, bro? Where do you get that idea from? Oh no, I saw it in one video and blah blah blah. Do you even look up who the guy was or his credentials or what he was talking about? People just think things because they heard it from a friend or somebody and they don't really question. So any opportunity that you have in talking to a random person could be an opportunity to challenge that status quo opinion in a way, or to ask them a question about like, how do you come to that conclusion? And they're like, I don't know, like my pastor told me or whatever. And then you can have a conversation with them. Like these things, like small things matter. And then also whatever thing you can do, it can be just a conversation, talking here, talking to someone. You never know, that might be the thing that puts the momentum in our favor. And yeah, so
Awesome. Yeah, completely agree. All right, guys, I'm gonna stop the recording, or unless you wanted to say something. I'm not. The conversation continues with you guys here. However, when I stop the recording, that means that you guys could basically say the things that you wanted to say without it being recorded, or the people who don't want their voices to be recorded and they
Armin,
were
I have one
waiting.
super quick
Yeah.
question. Super
Okay,
quick
go ahead.
question. Why hasn't Reza Pahlavi met with Trump yet?
Well, I don't know if it was Gary or Jeffrey. He responded to this because I think that would be
Sorry, I
look
was
good.
late. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's okay. I'll respond. I think it's important for Princess Pahlavi not to look like he has been handpicked by the Americans to be the leader of Iranians. So they asked Trump about what he thinks about Prince Reza Pahlavi, and Trump said like, "Oh, I think he's a good guy, but I don't know how much support he has. The Iranian people, we should just let the Iranian people decide whatever the leader want." And I think that was a very smart response. You want to make sure that the world understands that the leader hasn't been handpicked by the Americans, and this is not an
Yeah.
American picked like leader for the Iranian people, and this is the leader that the Iranian people have chosen themselves.
Where is Reza Pahlavi right now? Is he in Europe?
I think he's in America right now. I'm not sure. I mean, he's traveling a lot, so I don't know where his last location is.
Okay.
But I think his base is in America. So, but if anybody knows,
Let
you
me
could
check
know.
actually.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm just checking right now. So he's actually he's actually based out of Washington D.C. That's where he's been living for 10 years, I think, 12 years.
Yeah, but I do think he might be traveling. Like, I'm not sure if he's traveling a lot or not right now.